The battle between Itachi and Zabuza resumes with the power of the Sharingan clashing against the Mist Deserter's strange black markings. Where once Itachi had the clear upper hand, now things seem more evenly matched, a phenomenon the young Jonin is not used to, since even his peers like Kakashi and Tenzo seldom push him to his actual limit. Were it not for his chakra sickness, Zabuza would not be able to boast such a feat, as Amaterasu or Tsukiyomi would make short work of the demon, but to do so would shorten his lifespan, and his responsibilities both as a teacher and big brother prevent him from sacrificing that callously, as he has much he needs to do before he can pass on and rejoin his clan in the next life. To that end, he puts all other thoughts out of his mind as he focuses on protecting his squad and his client from the threat before them. Drawing several shuriken, he hurls them in seemingly random directions, though as the throwing stars begin to curve in midair and arc towards each other, Zabuza recognizes this as a carefully calculated strike that only one blessed with a Sharingan could carry out. A moment later, the shuriken begin bouncing off one another, with several flying right at the mist assassin's vital points. A clever trick, but not one Zabuza cannot handle, as with his enhanced speed he dodges out of the way, before leaping into the air and performing an aerial 360 spin to create momentum for his next swing with the Executioner's blade. Once more, the Sharingan proves to be Itachi's saving grace, as by reading this motion in advance, he's able to draw a pair of kunai and cross them to form a makeshift shield against the attack. Unfortunately, this only mitigates the damage rather than neutralizing it entirely, a fact Itachi becomes acutely aware of when his kunai shatter under the impact of the hefty blade, with his arms struggling not to follow suit as vibrations run up them. Gritting his teeth, Itachi drops his broken weapon then rushes in, figuring that Zabuza would not expect him to enter taijutsu range, considering the danger such a move would put him in, thanks to the missing nin's sword. In this, Itachi is right, with Zabuza being so surprised that Itachi is able to land a pair of body blows that make the assassin curl in on himself. This does have the unfortunate side effect of further jarring Itachi's arms, though it hardly matters to the raven-haired man now, as Zabuza has exposed his neck, meaning all it will take is a swift stab to end him. Whipping out the old Anbu Tanto he has carried since he was Sasuke's age, Itachi allows his assassination training to take over, as he instinctively lines up the thrust. But before he can carry it out, Zabuza manages to recover, grabbing Itachi's wrist and throwing the leaf shinobi over his shoulder, causing him to land on his back against the water's surface. Looking up, Itachi sees Zabuza readying an attack, though the man's focus is not on him, instead charging at Tazuna and the Genin trio. It seems that the demon of the hidden mist spoke truly about his devotion to the job. Very well, that makes Itachi's own course clear. Springing to his feet, Itachi grabs Zabuza from behind, seemingly trying to make the hand seals for some strange jutsu, though in truth his motive is far less combative, with him actually using Anbu hand signals to convey instructions to his team. Having studied these signals as a means of non-verbal communication to prevent enemies from overhearing their plans, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke all understand that this is in order to retreat. Though more than that, it is to employ one of the contingency plans Itachi concocted before the mission, in case the trio are ever separated from their sensei. In a puff of smoke, 3 more Narutos as well as 5 additional Tazunas appear, with each of the Genin grabbing a Tazuna by the wrist and pulling them in different directions as they cross into the tree cover. In spite of the grim situation, Itachi is pleased with how proficiently his team pulled off their Shadow Clone diversion strategy. Now they can focus on getting Tazuna and themselves to safety, while he can at last fight unfettered, as he doesn't have to devote any of his attention to shielding the kids. Unfortunately, even the best laid plans of mice and men can be screwed over by a man with a giant sword, as with no change in his confident demeanor, Zabuza yells out for someone named Haku, ordering them to take Suigetsu and Meizu Gozu and kill those brats along with the bridge builder. The only response the assassin receives is a rustling from one of the trees, though this seems to satisfy him, as he growls that Tazuna and the Genin are as good as dead, with Itachi soon to join them. Changing his grip from a stabbing hold into one better equipped for sword-on-sword combat, Itachi firmly states that Zabuza would do well not to underestimate his students, or him, since he already told the other man that if he does not give up his pursuit of their client, it would be him who wound up dead. And now with no one to protect, he can make good on those words. In the forest, the 6 fleeing pairs all begin to scatter, dodging roots and rocks while above them Haku and his 2 contemporaries give chase. Silently they curse this decoy trick, since with no discernible way to tell who is the real bridge builder, they have no choice but to kill them all, an activity which wastes time and gives their enemies more chances to escape. Being the most committed to completing Zabuza's goal, Haku pushes himself harder than his allies, leaving them behind and gaining on one of the Narutos with Tazuna in tow. Whipping out a pair of Senbon, he deftly dispatches them, though to his dismay discovers they are merely shadow clones. And to make matters worse, the real Naruto will now be aware that he's being pursued, and so may well tip off his compatriots, meaning the element of surprise is gone. Not long after this, Suigetsu catches up to Haku, reporting that he finished off one of the blonde dudes too, meaning there's only 1 clone left. However, Meizu Gozu momentarily chuckles that actually there's none, as his chainsaws just made short work of the final set of fakes. Nodding curtly, Haku asks if either of the others have any insight as to who has the real bridge builder, with Suigetsu answering that he has a hunch. During their fight with the Leaf team earlier, he saw that the two boys were real close, so if he were to guess, he'd say Blondie would have trusted the most important job to his best buddy, that being the one with the black hair. Acknowledging this, Haku states that he will focus on tracking that genin, while Meizugozu declares that he'll go after the final blonde as payback for earlier. This leaves Suigetsu to deal with the girl, an assignment he has no objection to, as she seems like the least hassle to fight, and right now that's all he wants, as his true objective has nothing to do with the bridge builder. Back on the lake, Itachi has gone on the attack once again. Like before, he enters close range, though this time when Zabuza tries to use the executioner's blade to behead him, he makes use of his Tanto's maneuverable nature, driving it diagonally through the hole in Zabuza's blade to create a lever, and forcibly redirecting it so he can close in on the missed assassin. Using the leverage he has gained, Itachi then drives a powerful punch into Zabuza's jaw that sends him tumbling backwards. Staggering to his feet, Zabuza tries to goad Itachi, suggesting that Haku and the others will have killed the genin and the bridge builder by now, but keeping his focus, the Uchiha doesn't bite, stepping in again and delivering a kick to the demon's face that dyes the bandages on his face crimson. Against a lesser shinobi, this would have been a fight-ending blow, but either due to his natural resilience or the markings that dot his skin, Zabuza stays standing, paying Itachi back by pulling his sword free of the Leaf Jonin's Tanto and bringing it around in a wide arc. By slashing the water first, Zabuza intends to create an obscuring wave that will prevent Itachi from seeing his real strike until it's too late, but being a former Anbu captain, Itachi is familiar with such obfuscation tactics, leaping back and using the cover to his own advantage as he summons a shadow clone while submerging himself under the water. Subsequently, when Zabuza swings at the clone with his executioner's blade a moment later, the doppelganger detonates, courtesy of the Shadow Clone explosion jutsu, with the force being enough to send Zabuza sprawling across the water's surface. Hastily, the assassin attempts to get back to his feet, but before he can move, the real Itachi rises from the depths, his Tanto raised and ready to be plunged into Zabuza's chest. Thinking fast, Zabuza brings his blade up in a hasty parry, and while the Tanto stands no chance against one of the misfamed Seven Swords, it does serve another purpose, drawing Zabuza's attention so that he does not notice the water fang bullets until they pierce his back. Over with Naruto, Meizugozu has finally closed in on him, dropping down from the trees to stand before him in his Tazuna. Fiercely, Naruto tells the bridge builder to get back, but with a leer the fused abomination informs the boy that he's not here for the old man. He's here for him, since his decoys have made this whole thing much more time-consuming than it had to be. Smirking, Naruto tells the criminal to believe it, since his shadow clones are second to none, but Meizugozu merely replies that this is only true while he's still breathing, since once he cuts him into little pieces, the shadow clones will all vanish, making it easy to tell which of his little friends has the bridge builder. Not that it matters, since they're all gonna die. Fear grips Naruto's heart at these words, but when he hears that this psycho plans to hurt Sasuke and Sakura, he forces himself to fight, marshalling a trio of shadow clones and running at the man. However, this is not the same as when he and Sasuke fought Meizu and Gozu separately, as the amalgamated brothers easily take out all of Naruto's clones with their gauntlets, then with terrifying speed, rake them across Naruto's chest, shredding his jacket and leaving an X imprint on his chest. Cackling, Meizugozu declares this was too easy, but to his surprise, Naruto is not done here, sitting back up and glaring hatefully at the man. He then throws himself once more at the assassin, though this time with a twist, as he manifests his dozen shadow clones to create that facsimile of the cube he had been working on. This achieves the desired result, as the seeming appearance of a tailed beast stuns Meizugozu, long enough for Naruto to slam into him and send him crashing into a tree. He then reverts to his regular form once more, dropping down from the head position to punch the Chainsaw Man in the face. This blow leaves Meizugozu seeing stars, and for a second, Naruto believes that he's beaten his first bad guy all on his own. That is until Meizugozu's second head smiles, revealing he had just been playing possum as he thrusts upwards with a gauntlet, burying the rotating chain deep in Naruto's stomach and causing a torrent of blood to burst forth. As this happens, Sakura is in a predicament of her own as she now must contend with Suigetsu. Not wanting to fight fair, the Hozuki boys decide to simply snipe the pink-haired shinobi from the trees, leaping from branch to branch and raining water bullets down upon her and her now destroyed Tazuna clone. Knowing that she stands no chance in such an uneven playing field, Sakura plays to her own strengths, using her proficiency with tree climbing to run vertically up the nearest trunk before leaping backwards to crash into Suigetsu. This is Sakura's shock factor at work, as having not expected this, Suigetsu is too surprised to respond, being sent plummeting to the forest floor below, while Sakura lands atop him. As the pair make impact, a heavy crunch tells Suigetsu that one of his water bottles has burst open. Great, just great. Now he's got to wrap things up quickly, since unless he does, he'll have to refill at the lake, and that means risking running into that Uchiha guy again, something he definitely does not want. To this end, he draws his sword, swinging up at the girl, but Sakura is able to roll away, rising to her feet and assessing the situation. By the look on this guy's face, breaking his water bottle made him mad, so if she can take out the other one, he might be forced to retreat. The only question is how she can get close enough to destroy it now that he has that sword. Knowing taijutsu is not her strength, Sakura first attempts shuriken jutsu, lobbing a trio of stars like Itachi-sensei taught her, though this is child's play for Suigetsu to deflect, before coming in for a thrust. Narrowly avoiding the strike at the cost of some of her hair, Sakura backs away, though this is only a brief reprieve, as Suigetsu gives chase, his shark-toothed grin one of cruel malice. Frantically, Sakura attempts to hold him off by throwing cherry blossoms of all things, but just like everything else that's been thrown at him, Suigetsu merely allows part of his body to become water, causing the blossoms to pass harmlessly through him as he continues to advance. Soon Sakura feels herself bump up against a tree, and before she can move, Suigetsu is upon her, his eyes locked on hers as he swings his blade in a wide arc and buries it in her neck. Meanwhile, the final pair to begin their fight are Sasuke and Haku. As expected, the real Tarzan is with the raven-haired boy, though as Sasuke lays a hand on the hilt of his sword, he instructs the bridge builder to run, saying they aren't far from his home now, so Tarzan should be able to make it while he holds off the creep in the mask. In an impassive tone, Haku informs Sasuke that to fight would be pointless, as he has been trained since he was a small child to be Zabuza's perfect tool, but as a tool he has no bloodlust, so if Sasuke will simply give him Tazuna, the Uchiha boy will be spared. Giving the master silent a smirk, Sasuke tells his opponent there's no chance of that happening, since he's a shinobi of the Hidden Leaf, meaning he'll fulfill his duty to the death if he has to. Nodding, Haku acknowledges this, stating that it will be to the death, as he cannot fail his master. A moment later, the masked boy is on the ground attempting to employ silent killing to strike Sasuke from behind, but to Haku's surprise, Sasuke is faster, avoiding the hit and laying his hands upon the hilt of his kodachi. Now it is Sasuke's turn to go on the offensive, using his body flicker draw technique to slash Haku's side, with the missed boy only narrowly avoiding a more serious wound by putting chakra into his retreating leap. Drawing a trio of senbon, he then hurls them at the leaf genin, but thinking fast, Sasuke brings up his scabbard to catch the needles as he closes the distance and strikes at Haku again, jamming the pommel of his blade into the assassin's ribs and causing him to grunt in pain. However, at such close range, this leaves Sasuke exposed to a palm strike, which catches him in the mouth, splitting his lips and forcing him back. Even after such a brief exchange, both Sasuke and Haku consider this will be a fight that pushes them to their very limits, as while each of them may be slightly better in certain areas, their skills and abilities are roughly on par with each other. This is a first for both combatants, as up until now, they have been big fish in small ponds, but now they are out in the vast dangerous ocean, and here only one question matters: who will sink and who will swim? Speaking of sinking, back on the lake, Zabuza's blood drains down into the wine-dark waters, while the black markings adorning his skin similarly sink back into the mark upon his neck. After such a critical injury, both shinobi know that their duel has reached its end, and now that the fighting is done, Itachi cannot help but feel some sorrow for his opponent. Even after doing it so many times, he feels no pleasure in taking a life, especially that of a fellow shinobi. Bending down, Itachi asks Zabuza if he has any last words he would like him to pass on to his comrades, but with a dark chuckle, the demon of the hidden mist replies that his only hope is that Haku doesn't do anything stupid trying to avenge him. The boy's far too sentimental for his own good. It's the only thing that keeps him from being a perfect tool. Insightfully, Itachi comments that it sounds like Zabuza doesn't really mean that. If he merely viewed him as a tool, he wouldn't care what Haku did after he's dead. However, this just makes Zabuza chuckle mirthlessly once more, as he grunts that all shinobi are tools for someone. The only question is who. By now, the missing nin's breathing has become ragged and shallow, though his mind is clearly still sharp, as with a piercing look he locks eyes with Itachi, telling him that he ought to ask himself that question sometime. He knows the Leaf Shinobi thinks he's a traitor, that he turned his back on his village, but nothing could be further from the truth. He cared deeply about the mist. He still does. That's why he launched his coup, not for power, but because he chose to give his loyalty to the people of the village, not the Mizukage who allowed them to suffer while he remained in power. These words only deepen Itachi's ennui, as they remind him far too much of his father, and as he watches the life leave Zabuza's eyes just as he did Fugaku's, he wonders if his father also believed that his plan to usurp the Hokage was an act of loyalty. Itachi will never truly know, though there is one thing of which he has no doubt, and that is where his own loyalties lie. He is Itachi Uchiha of the Leaf, and always shall be. Time slows for Naruto as Meizu Gozu's chainsaw shreds his internal organs. The This can't be the end of the road for him. He was supposed to become Hokage, not die here. This thought seems to amuse someone, as from deep within the recesses of his mind, Naruto hears a gruff bark-like laugh, accompanied by a sneer, which he soon recognizes as the Nine-Tails. Angrily, the boy tells his unwelcome tenant to leave him alone, since he doesn't want the last thing he ever hears to be the stupid fox laughing at him. But with another chuckle, the Kyuubi growls that if that's what Naruto wants, he'll go, though he'd have thought the brat would want to hear his proposition. After all, it's the only way he'll survive. Struggling to hold on to consciousness, Naruto orders the orange furball to spit it out already, and with a leer, the demon fox replies that he can give Naruto the chakra he needs to heal himself, and even beat this fused abomination. All the boy has to do is be willing to receive it. Scowling mentally, Naruto asks what the catch is, but with another rumbling growl, the Kyuubi snorts that the boy's in no position to negotiate, nor does he have time to weigh his options, so it's time he makes his choice. Will he accept his gift, or will he die? The answer comes in the form of flames, or rather, flame-like chakra, as with a guttural snarl, Naruto's body returns to life. Pulling himself off Meizu Gozu's gauntlet, the boy drops to the ground, his wounds rapidly healing as his now red-slitted eyes bore into the Mist Ninja. Worriedly, the second head asks the primary what they should do, but with a steely look in his eyes, the main head answers that this doesn't change anything, they just have to kill this brat. Rushing in, Meizu Gozu then slashes at Naruto, though in this state, the boy manages to heal faster than he can be hurt, taking the hits and pouncing on his foe with savage glee as he begins to maul him with his bare hands. Screams of fear and pain burst from the fused man's mouths, though he does not hold this moniker for long, as in an act of desperation, Meizu and Gozu split back into separate entities, with Gozu attempting to run as Meizu is attacked. However, this is a very poor decision, as with a snarl this new berserk Naruto summons a squad of 6 shadow clones, all of whom are more than able to drag the coward back, scratching and biting at him as they do. When the demon brothers lie at his feet, Naruto shows them precisely as much mercy as they showed him and Sasuke in their fights. That is to say, none. All the while subconsciously feeding on the negative emotions the pair give off, and proving himself every bit the demon this pair claimed to be. Meanwhile, over with Suigetsu, he has just buried his sword in Sakura's throat with the intent to decapitate her. However, something about this is wrong. The girl's neck is putting up far more resilience than it should be, with him only being able to bury the blade half in it before it will go no further. Then, he feels a weight being lifted from his hip, and as he spins round, he sees the girl pulling his last bottle from his holster and stabbing it with a kunai so that all the water rushes out. Furiously, he tries to bring his sword up to slash her, but to his surprise, he finds it buried not in a neck as he had originally thought, but in a tree trunk from which he cannot dislodge it. So the little squirt put him under genjutsu just like her sensei, eh? Not a bad trick at all, he's gotta admit. Stepping forward, Sakura orders him to surrender, declaring this battle's over since now she's destroyed his bottles, taken his sword, and by now Tazuna should be back in his village. However, with a flash of those shark fangs, Suigetsu replies that he honestly couldn't care less about the old geezer, since he's not here for him. He's here to make sure Haku isn't too badly injured before his boss can carry out his plans for the pretty boy. So, if she'll excuse him, he's got places to be. And just like that, Suigetsu flees, briefly becoming water before sprinting in the direction of Haku and Sasuke, unaware of the fact that he is not the only one heading that way. Having dealt with the demon brothers, Naruto in his wild state now seeks either of the remaining 2 enemies, his bloodlust mixed with his desire to protect his friends melding into a potent need that drives him forward. Though he does not know why on a conscious level, something pulls him towards a certain copse of trees, and as he emerges, he sees Sasuke fighting the masked boy who killed one of his shadow clones. Both combatants have clearly been going all out, and so wasting no time, Naruto leaps into the fray. At this moment, Haku is readying another volley of Senbon, figuring that Sasuke's scabbard will not be able to save him this time. And while this is true, he does not factor in Naruto, who leaps out of the brush, his claw-like fingernails raised to strike. Changing tack reflectively, Haku buries the half-dozen needles in the boy's neck and other vital areas, and as Naruto falls, his chakra cloak fades, and his red eyes become blue once more. From a small distance away, Sasuke watches on in horror. Those Senbon were meant for him, but now Naruto, his best friend, had... The young Uchiha cannot even bring himself to think the word, and so instead lets out a primal scream, tears running down his face, though strangely if anything, his vision has become clearer, not blurrier. However, this is the furthest thing from Sasuke's mind now. All that matters is making Haku pay. Abandoning all the clever strategies his brother taught him, Sasuke runs directly at the masked assassin, much to the other boy's shock, though this is nothing compared to the shock Haku feels when Sasuke grabs him by the hair and slams his face into the nearest tree. The force of this shatters the boy's mask, but Sasuke has no interest in looking upon the face of his enemy, just slamming his face into the tree over and 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 over again. When Haku's face has been reduced to a bloody pulp, Sasuke tosses him aside, raising his Kodachi and straddling the other boy. He promised that he would never lose anyone else precious, and now Haku has taken his best friend in the world from him. For that, he has to die. Lining up the blade, Sasuke readies himself to drive it into Haku's heart. All the while, the Mist Ninja makes no move to resist. He failed Zabuza, could not kill the bridge builder, or even get past the Genin, and so is a broken tool, deserving nothing more than to be cast aside. However, before Sasuke can bring the blade down, a new voice rings out, that of Itachi, as he orders his brother to stop. Looking up, Sasuke sees Itachi perched on a tree branch, Zabuza's sword strapped to his back. Dropping the gargantuan blade into the soil, Itachi reveals that he took it from Zabuza's dead body, as he tells Haku that the fight is done, and that he and his allies should leave now while they still have the chance. In unison, both Sasuke and Haku object to this idea, with Haku having found his inner fire again the moment he saw his master's beloved blade hit the forest floor. In a deadly whisper, he declares his intent to kill Itachi, thrashing beneath Sasuke, while Sasuke himself snarls this piece of filth killed Naruto, so he can't be allowed to go free. However, this earns Sasuke a laugh from another familiar voice, and whipping his head around, he sees Naruto slumped against a tree, as the blonde declares that yeah, Haku hurt him pretty bad, but he wasn't about to die, not when he hasn't even become Hokage yet. Rising to his feet, Sasuke storms over to Naruto, fuming that the other boy is an idiot for letting him believe that he had idiot! Here Naruto's laughter dies down, and placing a hand comfortingly on his best friend's shoulder, he assures Sasuke that he's okay. They all are. Believe it. Meanwhile, Haku has not given up on his oath of vengeance against Itachi, his bruised and bloodied face conveying an utter brokenness as he scrambles his way up the tree. Though, before he can get very far, another player enters the scene, that being Suigetsu, who grabs Haku by the back of his jacket and pulls him back down, stating that he heard the long-haired man, it's time to go. This does nothing to assuage Haku's anger, but Suigetsu truthfully doesn't care, as he has no desire to be murdered either by Itachi or the boss if he comes home without Haku. Not to mention that since the stupid Genjutsu girl destroyed his bottles, he needs to get back to the lake ASAP, and doesn't have time for Haku's temper tantrum. Though, he will be sure to collect what's left of Zabuza, since there'll no doubt be questions about why his curse mark was not sufficient to kill a Leaf Jonin, even if he was an Uchiha. Following their departure and Sakura's arrival, Itachi leads his team and Tazuna out of the forest, though as a precaution he does have a couple of crow clones double back to make sure their assailants are not following them. In a pleasant surprise, the first of its kind since leaving the village, Team 7 manages to make it to Tazuna's home without further interruption, being met by a woman and a young boy, who they assume are the daughter and grandson the bridge builder mentioned. Gratefully, they thank the Konoha Shinobi for bringing Tazuna home, with the trio of Genin saying it was no problem, while Itachi just nods. In the days that follow, no further enemies make themselves known, meaning Tazuna can at last get back to work on his bridge. This does not mean Team 7 are idle though, as following the battle with Zabuza and his cohort, Itachi is intent on having his students redouble their training so they can be ready if something like this ever happens again. Sitting down with each of them, he carefully goes over their individual battles in the forest, acknowledging their strengths as well as citing where they need to improve. Of the three Genin, Sakura is the one he has the least feedback for, as she effectively harnessed the skills they'd been working on to defeat her opponent. To that end, he mostly assigns her to keep on with what she's been doing so far, though does express the likelihood that he may call upon her to help the boys improve their chakra control. For Naruto in particular, this is an area he feels the boy could use some improvement, as from what he can gather, the young Jinchuriki partially lost control of the Ninetales, which could have been disastrous had Haku not taken him out of the fight. As a result, Itachi instructs the boy to keep working on improving that control, as the thought of something like this happening again troubles him deeply, almost as much as why the Ninetales decided to save Naruto in the first place. While he does know the death of the Jinchuriki also means the death of the tailed beast, he highly doubts the mercurial monster's motivation would be anything so simple. Making a mental note, Itachi endeavors to keep a closer eye on Naruto moving forward, and to discuss the matter with Lord Third and the Council as soon as they get back to the Hidden Leaf. Finally, there is Sasuke, though when Itachi goes to summon him for their debrief, he finds his little brother absent, with Sakura informing her sensei that he left to go train back in the woods. Thanking the girl, Itachi makes haste, finding Sasuke in the same spot he and Haku fought, though this time he appears to be engaged in battle with the nearby trees, slashing and stabbing at them with speed and force that most Chunin could not match. In a teacherly tone, Itachi informs his brother that he should go easy on that, as if he is not careful, he might blunt or even break his blade, and this causes Sasuke to stop, as he sheaths the weapon and looks up at Itachi. Evidently something is troubling the boy, and so taking a seat and patting the ground beside him for Sasuke to join him like they did as kids on the porch of their family home, Itachi asks what's the matter, though in truth, he suspects he already knows. As he thought, the source of Sasuke's angst is how his battle with Haku played out. Not the end, nor the fact he went berserk on the other boy, but the fact that he almost let a friend die. Comfortingly, Itachi tells his little brother that what happened to Naruto wasn't his fault, but in a petulant tone, Sasuke retorts that it was. He's the strongest member of their Genin squad, and if he'd only been stronger he could have protected his best friend. Itachi has no trouble understanding how his little brother feels here, having spent countless nights blaming himself and his lack of power for Shisui's death. But this also means he knows the futility of these feelings, telling Sasuke as much, since even with all the power in the world, he will never be able to protect everyone he loves. He is not perfect, nor can he ever hope to be, for a perfect being does not exist, and to take such a burden onto himself will only result in isolation and failure, two things Itachi knows all too well, even if he does not vocalize it to his little brother. Looking both crestfallen and frustrated, Sasuke asks what he is supposed to do then, and draping an arm around his brother's shoulder, Itachi responds that the best thing he can do is use what power he does have to help those he cares about grow, so they can look after themselves, and in turn they will do the same for him. That is why ninja teams are designed the way they are, since not only can one experienced sensei impart their knowledge and skills to three up-and-coming shinobi, but also so the three up-and-comers can form bonds and learn from each other, as they will all have areas of expertise the others lack. These bonds are the only path to true growth, a fact Sasuke himself is living proof of, even if he doesn't know it. Take his bond with Naruto. While he was always ahead of the other boy in terms of shinobi skills, and so played a teacher role during their academy days, Naruto was able to teach him what it meant to be a friend, and to truly be happy again, something even Itachi couldn't accomplish despite all his power. Sasuke has also taught Itachi so much, just by being his little brother, things he could have never learned on his own, so he implores Sasuke not to keep trying to run ahead, but instead to allow others to walk alongside him. Looking pensive, the younger Uchiha promises to try, and this is good enough for Itachi, who smiles softly before poking Sasuke on the forehead and telling him they haven't even gotten to discuss Sasuke's new training regimen in light of the battle. Sasuke will be working with him to train his Sharingan, since like any Keki Genkai, it must be trained in order to reach its fullest potential. This news comes as something of a surprise to Sasuke, not the fact that he must train his Sharingan, but rather that he unlocked it at all, with Itachi having to explain that when he arrived after slaying Zabuza, it was to find Sasuke with the crimson eyes, likely being a result of Haku's presumed murder of Naruto. A little sheepishly, Sasuke admits that in his anger he didn't even notice, though Itachi does not fault him, instead laying out what the two of them will be working on, since he hopes that with a bit of hard work and diligence, the Sharingan will be able to complement everything Sasuke has already been building towards. Now with their new orders, the trio of Genin get down to work, with Sasuke mostly spending his days with Itachi, while Sakura often finds herself paired with Naruto. While at first the girl does find this something of an impost, she dutifully obeys her sensei's instructions and does her best to help the blonde with his own chakra control issues. Through this time spent together, she slowly begins to realize there is more to Naruto than just the loudmouth knucklehead with a chip on his shoulder she knew in her academy days. He is also hardworking and a loyal friend who is more than willing to help her improve her genjutsu mastery, even if this means acting as a training dummy, while she assails his senses with shocking hallucinations. Thanks to this, the pair quickly fall into an easy training rhythm, where Sakura will employ her genjutsu, while Naruto will attempt to use his slowly increasing chakra control to try and escape the illusions, with both Genin growing stronger as a result. Meanwhile, Sasuke has become far more comfortable with his Sharingan under Itachi's guidance, having adapted to the enhanced perception to the point where he can more or less keep up with it, granting him enhanced speed and reflexes, along with a sizable boost to his skill with both the body flicker and Kenjutsu. For his part, Itachi is immensely proud of his brother's growth, though more even than that, he is proud of what Sasuke does when their training is done, as the boy has taken to using his downtime to help his teammates with their studies, and in turn see what they can teach him. In addition to that, he has also taken on a big brotherly role of his own, spending what time he can with Tasuna's grandson Inari. Initially, the boy holds nothing but disdain for all 4 of the shinobi, spitefully accusing them of pretending to be heroes, though in an attempt to heed what his brother said in the forest, Sasuke does not rebuke Inari for this, instead welcoming him to share his view before offering his own in turn. Due to his ninja way being heavily influenced by Itachi, Sasuke does not view the shinobi life as one of heroism, but rather of service and duty, stating that true shinobi are the nameless protecting peace from the shadows. Such humility and maturity from someone not much older than himself surprises Inari, and while at first he tries to dismiss it as empty words, what Sasuke said stays with him until finally he approaches the raven-haired boy again and begrudgingly asks to hear more about his ideology. Happy to oblige, Sasuke shares what he has learned, with this quickly transforming into stories of his past. Through this, Inari comes to see parallels between himself and the Leaf Ninja, divulging the story of his stepfather's murder at the hands of Gato and bonding over the pain of loss. However, here Sasuke is able to provide guidance of his own, telling Inari about how it was his friendship with Naruto that truly pulled him from the darkness that loss had left him in, before offering that if the boy would like, he would be happy to be that friend for him. Following this, Inari begins to lighten up, with Tsunami commenting how miraculous it is to see her son return to his old self. Even Naruto and Sakura begin to spend some time with youth now that he's an outright abusive to them, and by growing the circle of friends, Inari only seems to grow more joyful, finally casting off the pall that has hung over him since Kaiser's death. As this is all happening, Tazuna remains hard at work, now drawing near to finishing his bridge. Following the death of Zabuza, Gato has made no further attempt to halt construction. In fact, he has not been seen since the shinobi came to town, with many speculating they either covertly assassinated the Mogul, or else convinced him to give up on his endeavor to keep the Land of Waves isolated. Either way, in just under a month, everyone is invited to the grand opening of the Heroes Bridge, a name suggested by Inari, both to honor the Hidden Leaf shinobi who protected his grandpa, but also Kaiser, and all the others who put their lives on the line for the peace and freedom of the Land of Waves. As the guests of honor, it is only fitting that Team 7 be the first to cross this bridge, and as they depart, it is with the satisfaction of a job well done, and the knowledge they have grown not only as individuals, but as a team. And that's where we'll leave things for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.